Welcome to another edition of World of Africa. I'm Njoka. This week on the show, we focus on the true face of democracy in West Africa. From constitutional crisis to democratic restoration, Senegal's democracy has emerged stronger and with an energetic young president-elect from the period of uncertainty created by outgoing President Macky Sall's political maneuvers. And that's where we kick off the show this week. After a series of setbacks and doubts as to whether Senegal's presidential election would actually take place before the end of President Macky Sall's term on April 2nd, the election was held on March 24th without any major incidents and in a transparent manner. A few hours after the polls closed, partial results were already pointing to a first-round winner, President Diomaye Faye, the candidate of the most outspoken opposition to the incumbent government and second in command of the African Patriots of Senegal for Work, Ethics and Fraternity Party, also called PASTEF. Released from prison just 10 days before the election after 11 months in pre-trial detention, the 44-year-old former tax inspector will be the youngest and most unexpected president in the history of independent Senegal. He will be the continent's youngest serving president when he takes office, and also the first polygamous president. Here is our covers report.
With just a week to woo the voters, they used the short campaign period to their advantage. Before that, President Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko were incarcerated by the incumbent President Macky Sall. Sall only ordered their release after pressure from the country's court. When voting approached, all the candidates, including President Sall's pick Amadou Ba and only female candidate, Anta Babakar, cast their ballot in an election regarded widely as a hot contest. Within hours of the polls closing and ballots being counted, the country's election commission declared a winner. But it took the appeals court's intervention to issue the final verdict. Eventually, the country's constitutional council approved the verdict.
Bassirou Diomaye
Faye, 2,434,751 votes. No reservations or objections were raised during the work by the members, all of whom agreed on the data and values adopted.
Faye's supporters celebrated on the streets even before the candidate was declared winner. The little-known 44-year-old opposition leader became leader of a country that is considered West Africa and indeed the region's bastion of democracy. Faye's victory also reflected the frustration among the youth with the high unemployment and concerns about governance in the West African nation. Backed by popular opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, Faye has vowed to protect Senegal from corruption and interference from foreign powers like former colonial master France.
The Senegalese people have chosen to break with the past, to give substance to the immense hopes raised by our vision of society. I hope that our vision of society has given substance to their aspirations. I pledge to govern with humility and transparency and to fight corruption at all levels. I pledge to devote myself fully to rebuilding our institutions and strengthening the foundations of our way of life together.
After being declared president-elect, Faye and his compatriot Sonko headed to the presidential palace to meet the man who imprisoned them both before the polls. With humility, composure and smiles on their faces, the meeting revealed no grudges, indicating a smooth, democratic transition of power. Before this, Faye had only ever run for mayor of his hometown, Njoka, a small settlement on a sandy track, crisscrossed by horse carts carrying women and their wares to the market. He lost that election in 2022. Few in Senegal know the remarkable journey of the 44-year-old tax inspector who rode a wave of youth discontent to become Africa's youngest elected president. In many ways, Faye is a typical young Senegalese man, passionate on Facebook, often wearing wireless earbuds and seeming more comfortable in a traditional kaftan than the tailored Western-style suits favoured by his predecessor, Macky Sall. And the other talk in town and a first for Senegal and Africa. Faye, a staunch Muslim, will become the first openly polygamous president with two first ladies by his side. Polygamy is common in Senegal, including among his ethnic group, the Serer. Faye was inaugurated as the fifth president of the Republic of Senegal in Dakar on the 2nd of April 2024. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
A tropical cyclone that swept across the island of Madagascar killed at least 20 people and displaced thousands more. Tropical cyclone Gamane, which crossed the northeast of Madagascar, displaced more than 20,000 people, and that's according to a report by the National Bureau of Risk and Disaster Management. On the flip side, there is a cycle of extreme weather, mostly drought in southern Africa, which has left some 20 million people facing hunger. Here's a report.
Gamane made landfall in northeast Madagascar with average winds of 150 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 210 kilometers per hour. It slowly dissipated while still over land, having dumped heavy rain and caused flooding in many localities. Roads and bridges collapsed in the north of Madagascar. Gamane is the first this year in Madagascar's cyclone and storm season.
All our charcoal for cooking is wet. We haven't eaten anything since this morning.
The water came into my house and took away all our work equipment. The fridge was washed away. We need help because we are suffering. We have no rice. We have nothing to eat. We don't even have enough soap. Our towels are all moldy. We need help, please.
Earlier last year, Cyclone Freddy and Tropical Storm Chinizo killed 37 people and forced thousands from their homes. Countries in South are struggling with the cycle of extreme weather. Drought has left some 20 million facing hunger. American aid agency USAID and the United Nations World Food Programme are in a rush to deliver food aid. They're aiming to help some 2.7 million people in rural Zimbabwe who are affected by the drought that has enveloped large parts of southern Africa since late last year. The drought has scorched the crops that tens of millions of people grow in what should be the rainy season. Now they can rely on their crops and the weather less and less. The drought in Zimbabwe, neighboring Zambia and Malawi has reached crisis levels. Zambia and Malawi have declared national disasters. Zimbabwe could very well be on the brink of doing the same. It has reached Botswana and Angola to the west and Mozambique and Madagascar to the east.
The situation is totally serious because we actually plant a lot of maize, pigeon peas, maize and a variety of crops. But because of that period of drought for the period of 2 weeks, it affects all the crops that we planted. And again of that, we had another experience, a certain armyworms which is attacked all the maize around in the areas. So it's indeed a serious situation.
With this year's harvest a write-off, millions in Zimbabwe, southern Malawi, Mozambique and Madagascar won't be able to feed themselves well into 2025. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Bereaved relatives emerged weeping from a hospital mortuary in Kenya after recovering the remains of loved ones whose doomsday cult leader induced them to starve themselves. The bodies of more than 400 followers of the Good News International Church have been exhumed from the Shakahola forest in southeastern Kenya since April 2023 in one of the world's worst cult-related tragedies of recent decades. Cult leader Paul Mackenzie handed himself over to police last April and is facing murder charges along with 29 others. All have pleaded not guilty. Mackenzie stands accused of telling his followers the end of the world was coming and they should kill themselves to be first in line to ascend to heaven. Here's a report.
Relatives of victims of Christian cult struggle to contain their emotions outside the government morgue in Malindi, on the Kenyan coastline, as authorities handed them the remains of their loved ones. This comes more than a year since the doomsday cult was uncovered in the Shakahola forest in southeastern Kenya. The government says the bodies are all victims of religious cult leader Paul Mackenzie. Mackenzie had ordered them to starve to death so that they could go to heaven when the world ends.
We started our journey on Sunday morning and got here yesterday. Today we came to verify if indeed the remains are of our kins. They showed us some photos on how the state of the remains looked when they were exhumed and the results that match his son's DNA. They asked if we came with our own hearse, but we have no means to transport the remains of our brother. That is our biggest challenge.
Mackenzie, the leader of the Good News International Church, handed himself over to police last April. He's facing murder charges along with 29 other people in one of the world's worst cult-related disasters in recent history.
It is 1 year later, we have still only 33 bodies identified. There are 390 plus bodies yet to be identified positively. Going at this rate, we are going to be here for 10 years trying to identify the 390 plus bodies.
Rights groups have also questioned the government's lack of support to families who do not have the financial means to transport the remains of the relatives for burial.
We would like also to hear from the minister more information with regards to why is it that these 400 bodies remain yet unclaimed. We suspect it is because there is very little confidence in many families that they will be able to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones, and therefore they're not coming forward, or that there may be costs involved.
More than 400 bodies have been exhumed from the secluded settlement in the 800-acre area. But authorities are still not divulging any information about the case. We report WION World is One.
Lack of rain and strong sun in most of Ivory Coast's main cocoa regions could hinder the April to September meat crop. The Wild Stop cocoa producer just started its rainy season, which runs officially from April to mid-November. In the same breath, Ghana and its West African neighbor Ivory Coast are both facing catastrophic harvests this season. Expectations of shortages of cocoa beans, the raw material for chocolate, have seen New York cocoa futures more than double this year alone. They have hit fresh record highs almost daily in an unprecedented trend that shows little sign of abating. Here's a report.
Surveying her farm, dotted with pools of cyanide-tainted wastewater left by illegal gold miners, is enough to make Janet Gyamfi break down. Only last year, the 27-hectare plot in western Ghana was covered with nearly 6,000 cocoa trees. Today, less than a dozen remain.
My toil, my livelihood was destroyed, and it's not easy. It's hurting. My daughter has completed high school. There's a boy also. I have a younger son. My late sister's child is also with me, and we were all surviving on this as livelihood. It's not as if there's another livelihood anywhere that I can rely on. No, I have no resource of income anywhere.
Across Ghana, cocoa plantations are seeding ground to gold miners, known locally as galamsey. Ghana's Cocoa Marketing Board, Cocoa Board, says it had no up-to-date data on the scale of the destruction. A study it did 4 years ago found 20,000 hectares of cocoa were lost to galamsey. 5 experts say mining has expanded rapidly in the intervening years.
It's a combination of factors, but certainly if you have all these farms being lost, productivity affected as a result of illegal mining, then its impact on the industry is one we are really struggling to deal with.
Long considered the world's undisputed cocoa powerhouses according to over 60% of global supply, this season Ghana and its West African neighbor Ivory Coast are facing catastrophic harvests. Expectations of shortages of cocoa beans, the raw material for chocolate, have seen cocoa futures nearly triple in the past 12 months.
Now everything has changed. Every time I come to see the farm, I am so happy with the work we have done. I pray that God will give us all such strength.
It's out of the trees that we have our pods, and through the pods the beans. So if the trees are being affected or infected by this viral disease, it weakens their ability to bear flowers, let alone having fruits on it. So if it's not coming, it means therefore also that we are also losing supporting the national quota of the kind of bees that we supply into the system. And in the process, it's costing us.
And while millions of cocoa farmers in West Africa are facing a painful watershed moment, it's a shift that wealthy consumer markets will feel possibly for years to come. Some Ghanaian farmers blame Cocoa Board. Cocoa Board is rehabilitating affected cocoa plantations with $600 million in financing from the African Development Bank and $200 million more from the World Bank. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Let's head to the Horn of Africa now. Somalia has long suffered from food insecurity. Years of civil war, frequent droughts and recent flooding have led to malnutrition. However, a new crop of young and ambitious farmers and agricultural entrepreneurs are driving an agricultural revolution by introducing modern agricultural practices. Simple greenhouses allow farmers to produce fruit and vegetables all year round, increasing food security for the residents of Mogadishu.
These 250 greenhouses dotting Mogadishu's outskirts are pivotal in ensuring a consistent food supply to Somalia's capital. In recent years, the country has experienced extreme weather with prolonged drought and devastating floods. The emergence of greenhouse farming is seen as a way to allow farmers to grow fruits and vegetables for the local market.
We observe that most of the vegetables consumed in Mogadishu were imported from abroad. This drove us to venture into small agriculture, utilizing greenhouses and irrigation systems. Our aim was to provide produce to the market throughout the year.
The growth of the sector has created jobs for young agricultural graduates like Mohammed Mahdi.
As young people, we make up 75% of the Somali population, and given the high unemployment rate in the country, we are grateful for the chance to work in our chosen field of expertise.
According to Somalia's National Bureau of Statistics, the unemployment rate for people aged between 15 and 24 years is currently 30.1%. Local supermarkets in Mogadishu prominently feature products from these greenhouses, drawing praise from customers like Sukti Hassan.
Today I came to the supermarket to buy various types of vegetables. I'm extremely satisfied knowing that these vegetables were produced in our country. First and foremost, they are organic, fresh and healthy.
As we move into extreme weather events and unpredictable droughts and flash floods, then use of technology could be one of the ways by which countries, and particularly Somalia, can overcome the food insecurity issue, and therefore greenhouse farming is and can be part of the solution.
There are, however, concerns about environmental viability of the greenhouse farming. The method requires substantial energy for lighting, heating and cooling. It is also water intensive. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
A Nigerian athlete, better known as Coach Dre, swam across 11.8-kilometer long water of the third mainland bridge, Lagos, to raise awareness on mental health. Dre said his 10-year career as a swimmer could help him do anything and become anything. He also urged people battling with mental health to ask for help.
Nigerian swimmer Akinrode Samuel is trying to raise awareness on mental health in Africa's most populous nation, swimming nearly 12 kilometers, the length of the longest bridge in Lagos, where many have jumped to their deaths. Akinrode, a swimming coach, said he was moved by the experience of a friend who nearly took his own life due to depression.
Your life can actually change within a blink of an eye, so just make sure you stay alive to witness it. So no one should commit suicide again. Don't think of coming to the Third Mainland Bridge to jump in anymore.
A 2021 UNICEF report showed 1 in 6 Nigerians aged between 15 and 24 was depressed, anxious or had other mental health issues. Medical professionals say the stigma associated with mental health in Nigeria's culturally conservative society makes it difficult for people to open up.
The idea is very simple. We don't just want it to look like the normal talk about it on TV and then that's all, and then nobody does anything about it. So we're trying to create an experience that's going to sink in people's mind for a long period of time so that the matter can be addressed.
Akinrode, who has been a professional swimmer for over a decade, started practicing for this feat in October 2023. While he expected to finish in 3 hours, he completed the task in 2 hours, 33 minutes. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of World of Africa. I'm Njoka. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and tell us what you think about the show there. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
On the next episode of World of Africa, democracy wins as Senegalese elect their first youngest president in Diomaye Faye, who now succeeds Macky Sall, who had previously imprisoned him, and firebrand opposition figure Ousmane Sonko. Faye pledges to govern with humility. Chocolate prices to keep rising as West Africa's cocoa crisis deepens. Top growers in Ivory Coast and Ghana are facing catastrophic harvests resulting in record-high cocoa prices. And tropical cyclone Gamane sweeps across the island of Madagascar, killing dozens and displacing thousands more. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture,